Mrs. Pizarski, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Costello, Ms. Campbell, Mrs. Boyd, Mr. Greer, Mrs. Brate.
Here. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, I would like to inform everyone that this is being videotaped over here by MCTV. If anybody in the audience is videotaping video or audio, can you please let me know at this time? Seeing none, we will move on. Okay, so we need a motion to open the public hearing for the FY23 educational budget.
So moved.
Is that a roll call? Yes.
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 Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell? Yes. Ms. Boyd? Yes. Mr. Greer?
Yes.
Mrs. Brate.
Yes. Do we have any members of the public that would like to come up and address the committee on the budget? Seeing none, we are going to close this with a motion.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Pizarski.
Mr. Costello? Ms. Campbell? Ms. Boyd? Mr. Greer?
Yes.
Mrs. Brate.
Yes, thank you very much. Next up, we'd like to move on to our Spotlight on Excellence, the Governor Winslow School 50th anniversary. Come on up, my friends. Yay! I love Governor Winslow.
We'll share, Mrs. Jacobucci. Thank you, everyone. We are so excited to be here this evening. We brought some of our wonderful team from Governor Winslow School. We have Mr. Gallagher, a kindergarten teacher. We have our assistant principal, Mr. McNulty. We have Mrs. Jacobucci, and we have Blake Doyle, who we have to share with all 4 other elementary schools, but we're happy to do that. And we can't tell you, honestly, how excited we are to be here tonight. Actually, it was canceled so much we thought Governor Winslow was going to be 60 before we got to share. But we made it, and we're very happy about that. In all honesty, as a person who's been around for a long time in Marshfield, I've said it over and over again, all 7 schools are so wonderful, and we're so blessed to be here together, but each one has its own special personality, and that's wonderful too. And with Governor Winslow, you'll always hear us talk about the Governor Winslow School family. I see even Mr. Kelly, you're a member of the Governor Winslow School family too. So it's just something that that we're super proud of, and we can't wait to share for you. Mr. Gallagher, Mrs. Jacobucci, and I are the only 3 remaining that were at the celebration of the 25th that are still here. So we are, hush, Mr. Miller. Well, no, we're really excited about that. So we actually lived it, and you're going to hear, and I know many of you, Mr. McNulty was a student at Governor Winslow, and I know many of the community members have talked to me about this time capsule that's the big secret at Governor Winslow. So the celebration of 50th birthday technically was the 70, so it was last year, but with the pandemic, we were hoping to really share with the community. So this is our first step tonight, is to give the school committee the first sneak peek, and like everything at Governor Winslow, it involves our students. So we're really excited to share that with you. So I'm going to turn it over, and if she starts crying, don't worry. It's all happy emotion. She's all Governor Winslow, and all we have to do is talk about family, and she gets a little weepy, but that's what we love about her. So,
well, this is a great, oh, sorry.
No,
this is a great celebration. Thank you, Mrs. Hubbard. You know, we always talk about building a classroom community at the beginning of the school year. Well, Governor Winslow, what's so nice about it is that we have, over the years, built a community culture, and that is so important. And we have been so lucky to have administrators come in over the years and keep a lot of the traditions that were put in place all those years ago. And you look back, And it's really important for community culture to have traditions. Of course, you want administration to come in and make some new changes, but we've been very fortunate they've respected the traditions that were already in place. And like Mrs. Hubbard said, that we've had parents over the years who were students at Governor Winslow who remember some of those traditions. And one of the big traditions is the time capsule that even I did not know where it was hidden. Even when I saw it open 25 years ago, I just thought it just went somewhere into the building. Under lock and key, I had no idea. So it's been fun for Mr. Gallagher, Mrs. Hubbard, and myself to share the excitement with the new staff that's at Governor Winslow, but I can't say enough about how important tradition is as a school community. And that just resonates through it all in meeting, doing the committee work, forming this whole celebration that will hopefully happen this spring. And it's been wonderful having our innovation specialists, and Blake Doyle will tell you a little bit about the video before we show you what we have in store for you tonight. So I'm going to call Blake to come over here real quick and tell. You're going to.
I think.
Yeah, sure. Oh, okay.
So it was really fun. I got the lucky job of working with the little mini Spielbergs and getting them on the green screen and hearing what they had to share. I wanted to thank the teachers especially. They really marked some time out and talked to the kids about it and asked them a few different questions. Is it the Peace Builders?
Leaders, yes, fifth grade
Leaders.
pieces.
Also were instrumental. You'll see them narrating and leading into some of the questions, and then snippets from kids everywhere from kindergarten to fifth grade, some quite serious, but some may have a little inside information on the time capsule, and some, of course, the whole thing of all. So either know about it or are excited to put into it when it goes back.
Last year, GWS turned 50. We want to celebrate 50 years of learning. A time capsule was buried somewhere in the school over 40 years ago. We asked all the kids at school, where do you think the time capsule is located?
I think the time capsule is hidden in Mrs. Hubbard's room. I think it is hidden in the bathroom's vents. Somewhere in the library.
I think the Governor Winslow time capsule is hidden under the old playground.
We are in kindergarten.
I think the time capsule is hidden near like a tree, maybe? Like a tree?
I think the time capsule is hidden either in the teacher's lounge because people wouldn't think to look there, or buried near the old playground.
I think the time capsule is in the cafeteria on the stage. I think the time capsule is hidden in the Winslow house. I think the time capsule is hidden in the trail by the playground.
In the bathroom.
I think the time capsule is hidden in Mrs. Hubbard's office.
What do you think is in the time capsule?
I think what's in the time capsule is papers and a sand timer because they didn't have clocks back then, so they must have used something to tell them what time it was.
Maybe some chalkboards and some letters that children made 50 years ago.
Maybe some history behind GWS. I think there's going to be old money in there, and then we're going to put new money in there, and an American flag.
I think we might find some letters or artworks in time capsule, or maybe some photos.
think we will find pencils and things that the pilgrims brought here from England.
So, in the GWS time capsule, I think we're going to find valuable stuff and old pictures and the old principal.
Years ago, I think school was very hard and not so fun. I think it was one big classroom.
I think there were lots of Winslows.
I think the school was really tiny a long time ago. A small school with a bunch of happy people.
50 years ago, the school probably taught differently because they didn't have the same great teachers and he didn't wear masks.
I think people had to dress up in a suit dress. I think there was no homework 50 years ago. I think the school 50 years ago was with no technology.
I think school 50 years ago, it was very dusty, but still pleasant as it is in the present.
I think school was simple but fun in 50 years ago.
So I think it was a smaller school and there was no Chromebooks.
I think the school had those big bushes. They were small, and it was just like one big classroom.
I think 50 years ago, it was black and white, and all the teachers we have now are all kids.
Hi, boys and girls, Mr. Gallagher here. 50 years ago, when this school was built, I was this old. I was only 5 years old, which means I'm 55 now, so I'm getting old. Back then, everything was in black and white. There was no color. And way back then, Mrs. Jacobucci used to ride here on a horse because they didn't have cars back then either. Can you believe that? No, that's not true. But when they built this school, I was actually really 5 years old. That was a long time ago. So good luck guessing what's in it, and we'll talk to you soon.
What do you think we should put in the time capsule this time?
I think that we should add a computer chip or some form of technology to show that we've been using the Chromebooks these past few years.
We should put a mask that had the day that COVID started on it.
What I think we should put in the time capsule is a copy of the homework machine, a mask to resemble 2021 and 2020, and the 3 copies of the 3 songs to do for the concert.
We have some favorite memories of being students in GWS.
At Pizza Bingo night, I got a gift card to Dunkin' Donuts.
Meeting new friends. Playing with friends at recess.
At Winterfest, I won a raffle to be assistant to the vice principal.
Teachers making education fun.
In kindergarten, we made leprechaun traps.
Being elected peace leader.
Playing volleyball and PE.
GWS is now 50 years old, and we can't wait to celebrate and to make new memories for the next 50 years.
We love GWS!
By the way, that's the song we sing, sort of a tease as to what's to come, and we promise each and every one of you will be invited, whether we're hoping it's outdoor in the spring, but regardless, this year we are going to let our school community and many of the members of Governor Winslow in the past that are now in parts of Marshfield will certainly get the word out that the celebration is happening. And We appreciate all you do to help our school and every other school in Marshfield be so phenomenal. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have some comments.
Wait.
Taking over.
We have quick.
Not
We're
so
gonna ask
fast,
you
Mrs.
questions. They have a lot of
Jacobucci.
questions.
I'm going to let my committee members go first. Go ahead, Mr. Greer.
All right. So it was Mr. Gallagher that says it was in black and white. So I went to Ames Way. We had Technicolor up there, so it was a little different. But it got me thinking. We actually I had Marion Dirksmeyer for a first grade teacher, and I remember that. And Bert Travis was out front with the shovel digging a hole. We actually did a time capsule at Ames Way in 1973, and we did another one with Fred Hubbard in '76 at Grace Ryder.
I hope his arm isn't dangling out of the top of that. I saw the picture of the
Well, that was back in the day where the Citizen of the Week, Citizen of the Month would all pile in the back of Fred's pickup truck. He'd drive us to McDonald's, which is where Dunkin' Donuts is. And all these 10, 11-year-old kids in the back of the pickup truck in the bed.
He actually shared that, Mr. Greer. He said, all I did was place Foursquare and throw them in the back of my truck for French fries. I said, I would go to principal prison today.
Oh, yeah. Well, they used to flood the field in front of Grace Ryder and would play hockey at recess. No helmets. That explains this, right? But, yeah. Yeah, but I think that's a great thing, celebrating the 50 years. And I get a kick out of how the children perceive the younger folks like myself and Mr. Granatino, Mr. Gallagher. Of course, you guys are way older than me. You were class of '84 types, but yeah, I was '85. But yeah, no, that's great, and I like how you build the school spirit by doing things like this. Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
I'm sure Mrs. Brate has a whole lot to say about the wonderful school that she sends her son to, but I can't wait to come to this celebration. I think it's clearly lined out there that you guys have a lot to be proud of. Obviously, all of us have the chance to work with you some and to see what goes on at Governor Winslow and to see that you're all very proud, but that pride kind of seeps through to the rest of the community. And it's not just the parents and it's not just the kids, it's that entire neighborhood. You're a neighbor of your school. It's a neighborhood that's really proud that Governor Winslow is right down the street. I grew up right off of Webster Street. I actually went to Daniel Webster.
Wonderful school, too.
Yes, but the geography didn't quite make sense because Governor Winslow was right down the street. But so I know that whole area is really proud of the school. You folks all have a whole lot to be proud of. Clearly, you're a very talented group at building a community. You can tell just from those of you who are here tonight. And of course, Mr. Kelly, another member of the community, usually sits over by me, but it says a lot that he went over to sit by you guys because I know how much he loves me and sitting by me. But I can't wait to see everything that goes on with this. And when you do open that time capsule, please just make sure that you give Rich his long-form birth certificate back. And I think we're all very much looking forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kendra or Bridget?
I'm excited to see what's inside the time capsule. Those responses they gave, all of us were laughing, like from the pilgrims and like the principals inside. I can't even handle it. So thank you. That was amazing.
Agree. A lot of fun. I think you guys are going to have a great year, and we can't wait to celebrate with you. And I love that you're celebrating the people as well, because I think it's the people that make up the school culture and the community that you've all built. So really excited to see this year.
I'm so excited for this. And please let me know if you need any help planning. And thank you so much for all of your work on that video. I know how long it takes to make videos like that and edit and ask the kids the right questions so you get the answers that you're looking for. I think my favorite answer was that it was dusty. I think that's so funny. Like dirt floors. Pretty funny. That's really great. I love it. Great job. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Granatino, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
So time capsules, Ames Way, Grace Ryder. Is there any way of tracking down whatever happened to those, or if they're still there?
I can glad to do so. I have not.
As if you have nothing else to do, right?
Yeah. That's more fun than anything else I do. So
Yeah.
So let me find out the Grace Ryder and Ames Way.
Yeah, and I remember the Ames Way. It was someplace near the front entrance, like by the office. I have a metal detector.
You can't tell.
Let's just say I don't think any of the kids were correct.
Well, thank you all so much. Have a great night. We'll see you soon. All right. Let's move into our informational portion of the meeting. Superintendent Granatino.
Brief here. Again, it's great to be back here in person this week. Couple quick items. Just kudos to our Furnace Brook Middle School. They had their winter concerts the last 2 weeks. 6th and 7th grade the first week after we came back, and then last week the 8th grade band, orchestra, chorus did a phenomenal job. Goes without saying that, Ms. Vittor, Mr. Dorelli, Mr. Brenner do a fantastic job with those students, and Mr. Kaminsky kind of orchestrating, no pun intended, everything from the high school and middle school level down to the elementary as the director of performing arts is just phenomenal. And it was just great to hear the concerts and see the parents at the concerts, and again inching back to more normalcy in the school buildings. So it was a nice events. I want to also promote an event that we're trying to find a date for. We were hoping to have it earlier, but with some of the COVID numbers, the folks that were presenting wanted to push it off a little bit into the late February, early March. Our 2 police officers who came here 5 years ago, Chip Yeaton and Nancy Liedberg, they're SROs from Canton and Brockton, respectively. They did a presentation called Not My Kid, I think my second year here. And it's all about bringing up parent awareness to opioid awareness, what signs to look for if you think your children might be getting involved in opioids or other drugs. Phenomenal presentation. I think it was one of the best things that we had. We did it in conjunction with FACTS last time. Chief Tavares and DA Cruz were also involved. So we're going to be having that event coming up again. We just have to find a date. We were looking at some earlier dates and they just weren't working out well. And so we're looking probably again like late February, early March. So when we get that set up, I'll do some more promotion of it. But it's a real important event, and I think the more parents we have here, the better. Whether it's middle school, elementary, high school. I mean, there's never a time frame to start learning, more about that and what you should be looking for. And they do it in a nice kind of user-friendly fashion that they can really relate well to the parents. So that'll be coming up soon. Ms. Boyd and myself had a conflict tonight. The MEF board was meeting. Unfortunately, we couldn't be there online, but I just want to put a shout out again. Probably give weekly reminders now as we get ready for the big fundraiser, March 19th, St. Patrick's Day Road Race 5K. This is year number 12, right, Tom? Year number 12. So, and it's a big one, and they're looking to push it over the $1 million mark as far as donations to funding the grants that have been created by staff over the years. So we're excited about that. If you didn't see it in the announcements or the emails that went out this week, there is a commencement date, and it is Saturday, June 4th at 2 p.m. at the high school. That'll be the graduation date for the high school. So going back to a traditional afternoon date, and with the commensurate Grad Night Live event going on that evening in the high school cafeteria, gymnasium, in that section of the building. Big night Thursday night at the high school, college planning night for junior parents. We want to make sure people get out there. It's never, as a parent of a junior at Situate High School, this night's always an important night, and the guidance team at the high school does a nice job kind of laying things out for parents as what they should be looking at, what they should be planning for. The SAT schedules are out now for the spring and summer. So they'll be talking about that and just some of the other things that parents need to be doing to get ready for that big senior year with those students. And then just a plug for Together Marshfield. I don't know if Ms. Brait was going to say something about it at all tonight, but that's a combination of our high school DECA and the Chamber of Commerce here in Marshfield putting together this event. This is the second year, right? We've done this, and it's a fundraiser to help support local restaurants. You can purchase cards for the restaurants. It's kind of the pay $20 for a $25 card to any number of restaurants, and there's a link on the website for that, and stuff went out to families a couple days ago. But it's just a great event to bring the community together. It's a great way to help support our restaurants. This was created last year in the midst of a pandemic when no one was going to restaurants at that time, really, and so folks were struggling some, and they're continuing on this year. And I think it's a great way to bring everybody together. It allows the high school kids to take ownership in their own community and be a part of something that helps others. So And I guess cards will be handed out the week of February 14th, and then the 18th and 20th, that weekend of February, is Buy Marshfield weekend. So I think that's when they want to have people flocking to those restaurants that they got their cards for and bringing the business to them. So did I leave anything out there, Ms. Bray? Wow. Wow. And what was the goal? Was there a target? Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for everything you're doing there. And that's all I have.
I do have one question about the that presentation. Is that live or
It'll
Zoom?
be live.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why they wouldn't have
Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you. Dr. Martin.
All right. We have been working a lot on getting back to our 5-year curriculum cycle. So the high school has to have all of their curriculum written and in place by this fall for NEOSC. So they are working diligently, even though it's difficult to get subs. A lot of our teachers are working beyond the school hours to get that done. And just to give you an update, we are looking at new core resources for K-8 math. There are some possible grants, but we're also working with the Department of Ed on their looking at high quality materials process. So it's a little bit different than before. Before we had a full year of investigation and every single teacher in the district would pilot 2 programs. This one is a little bit more streamlined, so we do have a committee that has representatives from all grade levels in all schools, but they are carrying kind of the bulk of the load because teachers are a little overwhelmed. So they will be looking at programs and piloting this spring, and we hope to have a decision by May so that we can plan for implementation. So the other thing, elementary innovation specialists offered a Zoom parent night last night. We didn't get great turnout, but it did give us some food for thought moving forward. They're looking at a possible STEAM night for parents and different ways to just support parents around technology and engineering practices. So more coming on that. And last thing for me, we had our Beginning Teacher Institute today on peer observation. We actually did it on Zoom because we had over 40 people and we want to be able to interact. So yeah, over 40 people talking about peer observation. We did a breakout room. We did some, chats in the chat box. We did some sharing orally. We did some videos. So our next one is at the end of March. So we'll see.
A couple questions on what you said. I just want to make sure I heard you right. You said K-8 math curriculum. So we keep redoing math programs and things like that. Is that because of the state changing?
Yes and no. The framework's changed a while ago. We have had Envision Math. We adopted the first round of Envision when I got here in 2011. And then all we've done since then is update Envision. And we've looked at our practices and our assessments. The practices, plus now we are using a workshop model in the elementary school, and certain programs lend themselves to that model and certain programs may not. So it's alignment to the standards, it's instructional practices. We also want a program that helps us meet the needs of all of our students. So having things in there for students whose second language is English, or students who may not be achieving at the rate that we want them to, or students who need enrichment. So we're looking at something to better service our needs and our kids more than Envision. Envision actually was rated not in alignment by Ed Reports and Curate, which is the Mass Department of Ed kind of Ed Reports. So we definitely want to move away from them and move to something that's more reliable.
And just ballpark price tag on all of this.
Ooh,
If you don't know, that's okay.
I honestly, I do not remember. It's quite pricey, especially K to 8. We are hoping to get it depends on the program that we choose, whether it will be funded by a grant, but we also know that we are using the ESSER funds for some of this work on some of the curriculum that we're purchasing.
Yeah, so the real driver is stuff coming down from DESE, right? That we
Yes
have
and
to-
no. I think it's yes, it's alignment to the frameworks, but again, I think it's more, we have more and more data and studies that show what works in math instruction.
So partly continuous improvement, and the other part is aligning
Yes.
with DESE
Yeah,
stuff.
I would say it's a combination.
Okay, are they kicking in any extra money?
They actually paid for iReady this year. They are offering the grant again next year to pay for it. That's an $80,000 price tag both years. And then if the program we choose is on their list and they select us as one of their districts, then they would pay the first year of the program for us. So that would include all the materials.
Okay, so it's a
and professional
subscription?
All of your textbooks right now have a subscription, so we're looking for something with both paper and digital components, but the digital component, you really can't find a program that's not a subscription at this point.
Right.
So,
Okay. Well,
Yep.
thank you.
sure. Mrs. Clara?
I have an agenda item tonight, but I do want to just make an announcement that the Marshfield CPAC is hosting a presentation tomorrow night via Zoom. It is titled Neuropsychological Testing and Basics of the Evaluation, presented by Dr. Catherine Bell. So in this workshop, Dr. Catherine Bell, an Easton-based developmental neuropsychologist and a member of the Harvard Medical School faculty, will go over all the basics of neuropsychological evaluation, including the ins and outs of insurance, test selection, interpretation, and recommendations to families and schools. So families have been made aware of this presentation via, the CPAC has publicized it. The emails have gone out from my office. It was in the superintendent's email and all the individual school emails. So there, you do need to RSVP in order to get the Zoom link. It's also on the, at Town Hall. But, so if anyone were interested in going to that, it's in all those different places. You can just sign up. It starts at 6:30 p.m., probably till about 8 o'clock.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Just a few quick items. In addition to budget that's on the agenda, we've ramped up the process on seeking membership in South Shore Vocational Regional. We have a draft placeholder for, it appears it's going to be in special town meeting in April for a vote to put forth at town meeting. That would be it'll come before the school committee, obviously, for your approval before going in April. Prior to that, we'll have a regional planning committee put together to look at the pros and cons of joining South Shore Regional. And we've also really dug into the financial aspects of it. And fortunate that my new assistant in her office came from South Shore Regional and has access to a lot of their data, which is nice. So it's helping us a lot with looking at the finances and how it's how much different it will be versus what we're paying now per student. So another item. The MSBA Statement of Interest window is open. That'll be coming before the committee, working on the Martinson roof and the Daniel Webster roof. So those are both on our capital budget timeline. So that'll be coming, the deadline is March 25th. So that'll be coming before the committee in March for your vote. And then lastly, we've also begun to look at transportation for next year and looking at how we can sort of take the lessons we learned during last year with COVID and the reduction in numbers of students on buses, and how we can move forward utilizing that information, potentially with a small fee to limit ridership, and then being able to really kind of crack down and reduce our numbers on our buses, so we can reduce the number of routes and potentially do something with our start times at the levels and bringing our elementary together. So it's a big project, and we really just sort of really kicked off for that. So that'll be coming before the committee over the next couple of months as we prepare for next year.
Change start time. We try to bring tiers down. Sorry about that. We can't do it as efficiently as we'd like, because right now we have to plan theoretically for everybody riding the bus, even though we know everybody doesn't ride the bus. So if there were fees involved, it might get folks to, they might not mind, and they want to pay the fees, and they will do so, but it will give us a more firm number as to who we really need to transport. Because again, just to refresh your memories, the only legal obligation for transportation is K-6 students that live beyond 2 miles. And that has to be provided for free. Anything else is up for grabs as far as if you wanted to have a fee. We've never had a fee, or if you don't want to provide it, you don't have to provide it. We've obviously provided it 100% for anybody that wants it. Not 100% do it, but we have to plan and have the number of buses available in case folks wanted to jump on the bus. And for tracking kids, it's hard, because you might have an idea of who should be on that bus, but there's no way of knowing every day who is on that bus. Whereas if you had people signed up, again, a nominal fee and bus tags, and it's just a much easier way to from a safety perspective, but more importantly to allow us to know how we can possibly bring down the tiers from, say, 4 to 3 or 4 to 2. If we could have the elementary all in one tier, and the middle school and the high school on a tier, that allows us to start a little later in the day, which is good across the board for almost all of our students, but still not impacting the tail end of the day. So, but to get to that point, we need to at least start this discussion on possibly instituting a fee, and then see where that takes us.
And we began to look at this just prior to the before COVID hit. So it pushed us out a couple years, but it actually now lines up with our transportation contract with Topman. We're in year 4 right now. Year 5 would be the last option year. So a whole new contract goes in for the 23-24 school year. So it lines up with that if we're going to do some major changes.
Mr. Miller, are we putting that transportation committee back together, or is this something that you're doing internally?
Yeah,
okay, because I know that myself and Mr. Greer were on that committee pre-COVID.
We're going to bring that back in probably next month. Looking at that time frame.
Is it still true that we're one of the only districts that do not charge for transportation?
Yeah, there are very few districts that don't charge.
Do you know what other districts charge, or what the fee would be?
The fees
if you
are
don't,
all
it's
over
fine,
the map.
but I'm just all over the place.
Grantino's paid a fee in Situate.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, we had a pretty substantial fee in the town I live in, but it runs the gamut. I mean, some will just put a nominal $100 fee, or they might go $1 a day. It's $180 for the year. It might be $2 a day, which is more akin to what we had to pay for our child when they were riding the bus. We would institute some type of family max. So if you have 5 children, you're not paying whatever the fee is that's decided by the committee. They're not paying 5 times that. There's a certain limit that you hit, and you don't pay anything above that. So, and again, the committee can decide when that money comes in. I know when I was in Canton, we had a fee, and I think it was $1 a day we had, so it was $180. That's also what the seniors had to pay if they wanted to park in the parking lot. They paid $1 a day. So it was everyone had the same fee, but all of that money went into an account that just went back into the parking facility, in the sense that if we needed to restripe the parking lot, the lines, it was use that money. If there was potholes that needed to be fixed or curbing that needed to be fixed, you used that money as best you could. So it wasn't just sitting there as some type of slush fund. It was directed right back to transportation-related needs.
And the committee, prior to all 5 of you being on the committee maybe 10 years ago voted that $180 a dollar a day fee in February, part of the budget process, and then rescinded it as we got a little bit closer to town meeting. And that was financially driven at that time. This is definitely not financially driven. This is more to just, as everything Mr. Grantino said, is just to really get our bus operations more defined.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. All right. There we go. Any subcommittee reports? Ms. Campbell?
Not necessarily subcommittee reports, but I was at Furnace Brook today, and they do.
I don't know if
have
your microphone's working.
green lights on.
Oh.
I have two now.
Yep.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was at Furnace Brook today. They have their high school musical performance happening on February 11th and 12th, which will be really fun. And then also, Mr. Granatino mentioned graduation, so I feel like I have to mention Grad Night Live on behalf of myself and Ms. Pizerski, who she roped me in now to be on that committee. So if any of the public is watching or any of you here want to volunteer your time in any amount or capacity, we will welcome you with open arms. And we'll be sharing more every meeting until graduation.
12 years of it now?
Awesome. Okay, I am going to take our student representative report next. Come on up. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so for FBMS and MHS, we see the start of term 2 this week, marking the halfway point of the school year. For FBMS, there's upcoming conferences on February 3rd by appointment only. There's also the AP class exam registration fees due on the 7th of February for MHS, as well as some card making and gift bag assembly for senior citizens run by the Key Club on the 26th and the 11th. FBMS is also having their book fair on the week of the 31st during any of the English classes. But anything else I had was already stated. So.
Thank you so much. Oh, again, okay. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, now is time for public participation. Come on up, Mr. Kelly.
All right, Kelly, Peterson Path. I received an email in regards to a Zoom lesson for Chromebooks to take place on January 24th, I believe, which is a good idea. In a previous discussion I had with you by email, Mrs. Brait, in regards to allowing Zoom for school committee meetings, it appears only to be authorized for the privileged few, such as committee members and or administrators that are sick or cannot make meeting in person. I would like to include in my original request, aside from school committee meetings, that also school council meetings and other school-related meetings also be Zoom required. Other town entities have both in-person and Zoom to give the public options to attending meetings, especially if they can't make the meeting in person. Mr. Granatino, I'd like to thank you for sending us parents the attached letter from DESI in regards to the change in COVID testing case numbers. The one item I noticed in regards to the letter from DESI I want to touch on is the tests that were done in schools statewide. Over 90% of the tests were negative. And DESI did not mention once that it was from wearing masks. Also, I want to highlight this comment from DESI. As a reminder, vaccines continue to be the best way to protect our residents against the effects of COVID. Please encourage students and staff to get vaccinated. First, masking was about encouraging the students to get vaxxed. Now they want students to get vaxxed to protect residents. In the super an update you had when the next school committee is going to be. I asked you to incorporate when the town meeting will be and the upcoming town election as part of your next update. The donation that was given to Ames Way is a very generous donation. It had simple requests that do not appear that it will eat up anywhere near the amount of money that was kindly donated. I do believe a subcommittee was going to be created to handle how this donation will be used. This would be the type of meeting that Zoom would be useful for. I hope the committee keeps tabs on how this money will be used and inform the public how it's going to be used with the vote from the committee. Last week there was a discussion of what sounded to be new positions being created at a price tag of just under $700,000. There was a comment from the committee member on how the budget is growing beyond where it should be. I questioned if this hiring is fiscally responsible action. As it just came to light, and we get to the discussion of the charging for the school buses, I will let you know that I am deeply opposed to that, and it appears that the town, as well as those that are elected to positions, have no problem and seek to keep reaching into the parents' pockets when they just don't seem to be able to get a grasp on the budget at all, and have no problem going on spending sprees at the expense of us parents. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do we have an MEA update tonight?
Sarah Marples, Marshfield Element. They keep moving buildings, so I don't even know where I am anymore. Sorry about that. Yeah. And guess what? I wasn't 5 years old 50 years ago, obviously. Sarah Marples, president of the Marshfield Education Association. My apologies. It's been so long since I've seen you all. First of all, I want to echo Superintendent Granatino's encouragement for people to get on board with the Together Marshfield, which the Chamber of Commerce is running. As an educator, I am very aware of how supportive our small businesses in this town have been, whether they're restaurants or some of our other businesses that are available. They always seem to come out when we're looking for support, for donations. They support our students in their senior years by offering them internships. So if you can, please. And it's also a lovely gift for those people who are still concerned about COVID and going out. Gives them a nice little break. They can get dinner out, and you get it at a discount. You look like a hero. So I encourage everyone, and both school community and just regular community members, because our small businesses are really the backbone of this town. As I know, because I've been here almost 50 years now, not really, close. I understand where we have made a lot of changes in how we're responding to the continuing infections with COVID and stuff. This coming week, we are going to be having parent-teacher conferences. I really, really, really plead with the parents, please. You can't go into a restaurant without having proof of your vaccination. We don't do that in our schools. The safety of our teachers, the disruption of our school system that has occurred because of this, we don't want that to continue. We all expected a big leap after the Christmas vacation, holiday vacation, and we got it. And the numbers are starting to come down. They're still much higher than they have been at other times. So if you come to a parent-teacher conference, please wear your masks. If you're not feeling good, send an email to the teacher and ask for another time when you can have that meeting. But let's keep our teachers safe. I know we all try to be very positive, but I know that in all of our buildings, it has been a struggle as you see the number of teachers and staff, let alone our students, but the teachers and staff who have to be out for 5 days because they become infected. Not because they've had close contact, Nobody's been out for close contact for a long time. It's about people who actually get sick. So please, it makes it very difficult for us to provide the level of education we want to for your children. So please make sure you keep our teachers safe and keep your families safe as well by following strict procedure and making sure everybody stays safe. The other thing, and I'm sorry, I'm being the nervous Nelly today. One of the side effects of COVID is that there have been some little hiccups in getting certain supplies. And one of those happens to be things for our computers, whether they're Chromebooks or laptops or desktops. We have, I know at this point, almost 90 Chromebooks waiting to be repaired. At the middle school, we have approximately the same number at the high school. The reason there is this backlog is because our computer repair people can't get the parts. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is sometimes the damage is because our students aren't always as careful as they should be. So please, if your kid's throwing their backpack around, if they're putting their Chromebook on the bed and then bouncing on it, if the dog ate their computer, and you think I'm kidding, we've had that excuse. Please remind your students, remind your children, this is public property, just like a textbook. Yes, you have insurance on it, but the insurance isn't going to help if we don't even have the parts or the Chromebooks for your students to use. We have worked very hard in this district to bring our students and our staff and faculty up to speed technology-wise so that we can offer resources to our students. But those resources aren't available if they don't have a Chromebook to use. They are part of the solution. So please, don't call up our teachers and yell and say, why doesn't my kid have their Chromebook? I paid insurance, my kid should be getting a Chromebook. Nobody is doing this on purpose. So please try to be understanding and ask your kids or remind your children, this is your part of the solution. Take care of your resources like you would a textbook or anything else. So thank you for your time. I wish you a Happy New Year, but it's already January 25th. Oh, and if my phone rings, my daughter-in-law is having her second baby. So
congratulations.
I left the sound on. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Congratulations. It's very exciting.
Number 7.
Wow. That is awesome. All right. I'm going to move the minutes to the end, and let's get into this old business here with our COVID-19 update. Mr. Granatino, don't forget the mic.
Yes, thank you. Our weekly update here, and there's some new changes. Obviously, we talked a little bit about it last week. I don't know how well I articulated it from home. I know it was a little rough, but we have joined most districts across the state in embracing the new testing standards that the state has brought forward. Again, based on the numbers they saw from, test and stay, from pool testing, they felt comfortable moving away from those options and allowing for districts, if they chose to go with the at-home testing, where students and staff who opt into this will be able to test 1 day a week. And obviously, if they're positive, they're going to follow the same protocols that they would follow if we found that they were positive in school. We will not have test and stay as an option anymore. Those that are used to have been deemed a close contact, we would offer them the chance to do test and stay if they didn't want to miss the 5 days for quarantining. But we will not be doing contact tracing, and we will not be doing test and stay anymore. The question came up, I know, from one or two people, well, what if you're a close contact outside of school, something at home? That's the prerogative of the family in coordinating with the town side. We will not be tracking those types of situations down. If we're aware of something like that in school and someone is symptomatic and doesn't need to, shouldn't be in school, we'll address that matter. But overall, the biggest change here is that those that opt in, and right now we have 327 staff members that have opted into this and 544 students families who have opted into it. Again, we just sent the family notice out last night, so they have till Thursday. The staff had got it a few days earlier, and they had to report back by today. So those numbers are given to the state, whatever the final numbers are, and we get that number of test kits each week. And so, and it's actually whatever we get delivered, say at the beginning of the week, that's a 2-week supply, because it's the iReady kits that we had been distributing earlier in the school year, or earlier in January with staff. That one kit comes with 2 tests. So you will have a test. Students, we're shooting to have them test on Tuesdays, and there's no set time in which you do that. And then when staff are looking to test on Wednesdays, the reason we've separated them is because if there are a number of positive cases, again, the nurses will still have to track it, because folks will need to make the school aware of it, just so that they know that someone's going to be out. If a staff member is going to be out, we need to know so we can get coverage. But there's no reporting commitment from the school to Maven, which is the statewide database, or back to the town Board of Health. We're just doing it, tracking it internally within the schools, so we know who's going to be in, who's going to be out, and if we need to get coverage for anybody. Let me get myself straightened back out here. So the 2 testing days, again, Tuesday and Wednesday were also selected. There's about 4 days that if you picked any one of those 4 days, it's the most you're going to miss as far as a student is going to be at his classes is 3 days. And that's what, so we want to make sure it wasn't a day that they tested and there's a possibility of being out for 4 days. So Tuesday for the students and Wednesday for the staff allow that if they are positive, they're not going to miss any more than 3 days of work or of school. The program right now runs through April 22nd. And if you didn't sign up the first week, you can still sign back up. I mean, we'll be checking the database if people want to be a part of it. Again, it's totally voluntary, and if someone is not opting in and is not getting a test, that's fine. That's their prerogative. Again, they're just not going to. The one testing that will continue in the schools, because again, back in October or September, we were given the option to have test and stay, symptomatic testing, or pool testing. We chose to go with the symptomatic testing and the test and stay. About 25% of the districts across the state did the pool testing. We chose not to do that because the numbers when we first came about last year with that were so nominal as far as the positivity rate that for the time and effort, it really didn't make sense for the small number of people that might have been identifying. So we will still continue those. So if someone's symptomatic in school and we need to, and they've opted in to the, again, it's not mandatory, if they've opted into the symptomatic testing, then we would do a symptomatic test like we've been doing all year long. And if there's a positivity identification, then the same protocols will continue for those folks. Trying to think here what other options. The mask mandate, regardless of the testing, is still in place right now through February 28th. The state had stated that a few weeks back, and that has not changed. As far as getting the test kits out, so once we get the final number from students, we have the final number now from staff, we're going to be coordinating with our principals on how to get them out. There's no rhyme, there's no one formula to do this. The state is more or less recommended that we just allow the older kids to pick them up and take them home, and then we get them with the youngsters in the backpack or something like that. But we want to make sure that we're doing it in a efficient manner where there isn't going to be breakage or losing of the kits before they even get home. So we'll coordinate that and communicate that out once we get all the numbers finalized. There'll also be for the parents, if there's a positive, or for the staff, if there's a positive result, there's a survey, a link that they can go to. And again, that only goes back to the building principal, or actually goes to the nurse leader and the nurses, and they'll communicate if someone's going to be out. But that will be shared with the parents and with the staff once we deliver the cases themselves. And right now we're looking at starting the staff next week, because we had to give them numbers, estimates at the end of this past week. And so we'll be getting the kits this week and starting them up next Wednesday. We turn in the student numbers Friday, and we'll probably get them sometime in the middle of next week. So the following week would be the first week that we would do it with students. So that'll be February 8th, I believe we had as the tentative start date. Again, this is all contingent upon prompt delivery of the materials, and sometimes coming from the state, and again, things are outside of their control. Just like Ms. Marples talked about, deliveries of supplies for schools are delayed. Sometimes these supplies are also delayed. But that's where we're at on that front. Before I talk about anything else with COVID, any questions specifically to the at-home testing?
Yeah, so as far as distribution of kits, right, I know HIPAA doesn't apply to kids, however, it would go through the parents, right? So if a student shows up to receive a kit, is that a violation?
I don't think, well, it hasn't been shared with us that it is. I mean, the state is encouraging us to.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
The state does a lot of stuff that makes
Right.
no sense to me at all, especially when it comes to science and some of the education stuff. But anyway,
I guess my guess, and I'm not an expert, in that field, but I think if you were talking about the result or the consequences of a test of a student or a staff member, that would be a violation. But the fact that they're taking a test home, I have not heard that being a violation.
yeah, can we check into that? Because my concern is the state rolls out all of this stuff with no plan on how to distribute it. I'm not, I don't know the law, but I don't know if the act of, requesting, right? So that then you would disclose who is requesting a test. I don't. If we could just check into that to make sure that we're not going to have any issues with that, because then it becomes a distribution issue, right?
Yeah.
Unless you give everybody a kit.
I will find out. Okay. Anything else as far as? Yeah, go for it.
sorry. Okay, so when you're reporting to the state, so now you're just reporting who reports to you a positive case?
We're not reporting anything.
You're not reporting anything anymore. That's over. Okay, so the on the website, that's going to be gone. That
Tracking the number of cases.
Yeah.
That's not. I'm sorry. I see what you're saying. No, we still have to track the number of cases. We're not saying who is positive, but we have not been told that we. I can answer that question, but we have not.
Okay.
Been told that
okay.
we still have to track the cases. We track them in our date. That I believe still, because if we identify it, we don't know. No students can test positive or staff member positive.
I think you need to use the microphone.
If we find out that a student or a staff member is positive, regardless of where that information is going, we're not going to identify them individually, but it is a case, still a case for the district. The thing that we're not tracking is contact tracing. We're not going to find out who is around them in lunch or who is around them in recess. And if they were a close contact, they're not going to be, asked to quarantine or asked to take part in test and stay, if that's what they had been doing in the past. But I think we still have to tabulate. I can find out. I'd love to not have to do that, but I think that has not been communicated to anybody that I've been aware of. And there's another webinar for nurse leaders tomorrow with the state, and I'll make sure that question's asked.
Okay.
And the HIPAA question, I'll bring that up too as well at that time.
Okay, and are your plans still to inform the district with that spreadsheet that we have on the MPSD website that Joni updates?
Yep.
Okay.
Right now, we would still be doing that.
Okay.
Yep.
And just to be clear, if a student is symptomatic, goes to the nurse, they had opted in to the testing, they get tested, and they're positive, there's still no contact tracing. Okay.
Yes.
You answered my question.
Yep.
Mr. Greer?
Yeah, so a follow-up. So what is the maximum absences? Is that 10? Up to waiverable to 15?
I think theoretically up to 10%.
Right, so if
15 days roughly.
So if a student is out twice or even, heaven forbid, 3 times with COVID, it's possible, right? And they don't need to see a doctor, which would come along with some type of fee potentially. How can you pass them for the year? So if they test positive, they stay home for 5 days. They test positive again, stay home for 5 days. How do they get through our system?
Just like any other system would be dealing with that. You have students that might have appendicitis and are out for 20 days, or multiple illnesses that have kept them out. It's okay. It's a barometer. The state's not going to come in and say you've hit that number, so you cannot move forward. If the work is done we have some local control over that. And if there's circumstances that arise, especially due to a pandemic, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that if a child has missed more days than we would typically want to see them miss, and it might exceed the number from the state, we're still going to try to work with them to make sure that the work's done, the support's provided for them, and if we feel comfortable that they have, these absences have not been frivolous, they've not been going to, Aruba and Florida and skiing on weekends, and that's why those days were up. But if they were related to something that is again, this happens all the time with surgeries that might keep people out for a while. This is no different than that. So we would do what we can to keep them.
One of that, like you brought up appendicitis, right? Well, you'd be under doctor's care for that. Typically,
Right.
you wouldn't do it at home. They don't have the DIY kits. For
No,
that,
they don't.
right? So,
but many folks have, with COVID, have, even though they might have found out through a test kit, they still might, be following up with their PCP, and that's part of the protocol too, to follow up with your PCP, if possible.
right. I'm just thinking, like, everybody in my house has had COVID multiple times, and there was no doctors needed. It's an added expense, right? So what's the point of going if you have the sniffles? You wouldn't go for a cold, you wouldn't go for, a mild flu or something like that, right? You just kind of...
Everyone's a little different. I guess the threshold it depends. So, and you're right, some of the symptoms have really varied from case to case this year more than last, so. Yeah. No, this is definitely, no, we have, it didn't occur last year, and it's not, the plan is not to have that occur this year. We're not, with your words, not looking to jam anybody up in this front. We're trying to work with them.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Granatino, just to follow up on that really quickly, Madam Chair, and Mr. Greer, you also had your appendix out last year too, and you didn't need a doctor for that either. You just did it by yourself. But the RAMS program,
Yes.
that's in place specifically for students who miss an extended period of time. That's still running, and I'm
That is still
assuming-
running.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify too that we have those specific programs, and it's from working with my youth and government students, I've had a couple students that had to go through it, and it gets great reviews from them.
Yeah.
So, just thought I'd make sure.
In the mass program after school, which is
Right.
providing support, that's at the high school, no charges, more or less, after school tutoring with some of the teachers from the high school to help catch people up if they have been missing stuff.
Right. Thank you.
And just a couple quick other things. I know vaccination rates, this is something that's always up for discussion. The high school is now, it's just over 79%, so they're about 14 individuals away from hitting that threshold of 80%. And again, I know you've asked before, what is the meaning behind 80%? You'd have to ask Mr. Riley and his team, but that is the number that some districts have reached, and that gives their local school committees the opportunity to decide if they want to have the masks removed for those vaccinated students at that school. Some schools have done it and moved away from the masks. As again, it's not a district-wide thing, it would be school by school. The high school is at 79, very close. The middle school is at 64.5%. The elementary levels have risen. We have 32% of the DWS students vaccinated, just over 52% at Ames Way, 44% at Governor Winslow, 42% at Martinson, and 52% at South River. So the vaccination at the lower levels has increased dramatically.
So just one more question / comment, right?
Yeah.
So hypothetically, we hit 80% and we don't implement a mask mandate, right? So isn't that in violation of our policies on discrimination? We're singling out certain students based on their medical status?
I would say that if it was, we would be told that it was, but and schools that have done this, and there's not been many schools that have gone this route. I know my community went that route for a week, the number spiked, and they put the mask back on. I know Cohasset just recently went mask-free across the board, but I was sharing with Ms. Brady.
And to me, that's, it's like putting a mark on somebody,
Yeah,
right?
that's, I hear you.
Done before.
I hear
in
you.
history, so.
That's just a little different than that, but I.
No, it's different than that, and I'm not comparing the two, but it was just, bad example.
Yeah, I get that.
In terms
I know
of
what you're saying, though.
like severity.
Yeah.
But the point is that we're calling out certain students and potentially, and that's the way they've set up the system.
Yeah.
And I'll give Jeff Riley partial credit on that, but the man at the top owns it, right? The governor. Anyway, let's
So
move to that.
I'll keep you guys in the loop if that number changes. Again, it was 16 last week, it was 14 this week, so closely getting there. And again, keep in the back of your mind, February 28th is a date in which they may give us different information on masks, especially if the numbers continue to keep on dropping. I was going to let you know, I send out the reports. I mean, the reports are posted so everyone can see it, but 2 weeks ago we had 283 cases. Last week there was 159 cases, and right now we're tracking at about 112 cases, 110 cases this week. So it's dropped.
So what does that bring us up to for a year total?
For a year total, we are around 1,000 something. I have it here. Sorry, I had the website up. You have it?
The students and faculty, or just students?
I'm sorry? 1141. So last year we had about 378, I think it was last year total. And this year we're at 1131. That's a combination of students and staff.
Okay.
That's a combination of the two.
Yeah, so we're about done with this. That's good. So.
But we have, again, the numbers we're dropping this week, and the absences is something that we track a lot as well to kind of get a gauge. And we had the lowest number of absences for our students in over a month today, and staff had the lowest absentee rate of this calendar year. So some positive signs, but I know as Ms. Marples provided earlier, we have to still be cautious as we move forward with these numbers. But it's going in a similar direction to what happened last year. If you remember, this time of the year, those numbers started coming down, and we were talking about bringing everybody back. This was when we were still hybrid, and a month after this, we were back fully in person at the elementary level. So we're getting there. Hopefully, we can stop having these reports in future meetings. Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure. And just to know, again, the town still has their vaccination and booster clinics going on. More importantly, they have PCR testing, which is free. I won't name the neighboring town, but one of our neighboring towns is doing PCR testing and charging folks $149 a test. So the town on Tuesdays and Thursdays here at the fairgrounds is offering PCR tests. Again, those are the, pardon? I believe it started last week. Last Tuesday it started.
It's on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
This kind of plays into it, but total aside, where the high school is introducing new curriculum, biotechnology potentially.
Mm-hmm.
I volunteer to teach the class for free, and we should buy a PCR and start charging.
There you go.
I'd be in charge of running it.
Now, the town has been great. They are fronting the bill. I mean, I think they're getting some reimbursement through a grant, but they're not charging the public here, and that's a good thing.
All set?
All set.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Miller.
This is the second read of the 2023 initial committee budget. The budget as presented was $54,830,441, which represents a 4.29% increase. And that includes $128,931 on our financial plan. The items as noted on the screen there. The process, we have to deliver a number to the selectmen by Monday in January. So it's pass the budget, and then moving forward through February, March, up to the April town meeting, we'll be working with that number of 3%. Pulling back some of the items here, working, sharpening the pencil, looking at what some elementary class sizes that are very low next year, so some trade-offs there, but and environments as a whole. The big thing is the
Microphone's not on, Mr. Green. It's blinking.
I was trying to talk when it was blinking green, but that didn't work. Let's see, so we have, so based on our ask of the 54, what is it, 8 something, 441?
Sorry.
830, 441, right? So that 600 and some odd K is roughly like 1.1 something percent of our ask, right? And the list that we have isn't, it says right at the top unprioritized, right? Could we prioritize that?
Correct.
I mean, I'm in favor of voting a preliminary budget tonight. That's not going to hold up my vote because we vote final moving towards the town meeting. But you know, if we have to chop, I'd like to know well in advance where we can make cuts.
Well, we'll meet with Kendra and Sean as a.
Oh yeah, I didn't expect you to do it right this second.
And it'll be brought back to the committee.
Yep.
Right, I was just going to interject and say, I think that's our next big step as a subcommittee, correct?
Yes.
Is prioritizing that need as we do every year, so we'll.
Typically, that the first meeting of April is when we finalize the budget. I mean, I think only once since I've been here, I'm sorry. All over the place here. I'm still getting used to being back in person here.
Just leave microphones strategically placed.
I think there's only been one time in my 7 years here that we've gone to town meeting and not having voted the budget until 6:35 or whatever it was before we stepped into the auditorium. But that first meeting in April, we usually vote a final budget. So if there's ways, as Tom talked about, where we can whittle away things and find ways where we can trade off to get some of these things off the needs-based end of the budget, we'll do so. And then, if there's still some items that we really need to have, but we need your direction, then we'll prioritize it for you by that time, if not sooner.
Yeah, you guys have traditionally done it, but I have to ask anyway, just in case.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for doing that.
Madam Chair, motion to approve the FY23 needs-based operational budget of $54,830,441.
I'm going to make you say that again because Kendra has a question. That was really good, though. That was great.
Finish the motion, and then it has to be seconded, and then she can have.
Yeah, I just seconded.
Sorry, I didn't know that you had a question. Motion to approve the FY23 needs-based operational budget of $54,830,441.
Second.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion.
Not really a discussion and not really a question, but I did just want to make a quick comment. I know, Mr. Miller, you were saying like class sizes like going down. I did just want to like throw it out there that that's not the case at Martinson.
Oh yeah.
Martinson's classes are growing every single day, and I was just looking quickly at the enrollment. So the change to this year, every other school either was dropping or at most had 11 new students. Martinson's at 55.
Yeah.
So like their classrooms are busting at the seams. So I did just want to like.
Yes.
And I know Mr. Miller is amazing at all of these numbers, but it's.
As over the last 2-3 years, the class sizes, like the grade, the numbers in each grade level at the four elementary schools have decreased, and Martinson has either stayed or bumped up a little bit, and that's a direct relationship to the buildings, the Madeira up behind Roach Brothers, and in the next 2 years that's going to double in size. So there needs to be some serious discussions about that moving forward as well. So and that kind of plays into the buses and start times, and it can all be interwoven as one big project moving forward.
Thank you.
I have a comment on a comment. Sorry to derail everything, but I mean, we went through this a while back, right? And I think we should have a subcommittee investigate. I think what we're all thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it. Well, I was on the school committee when it happened. I'm not saying it.
Don't say the word.
Nope.
But we will. Yes, we will definitely have a committee.
I'm definitely.
Okay. Okay. When do you suspect that committee will be created?
Which committee?
The committee
There's a few committees.
to look into the thing that not to be mentioned.
Yeah, that's.
No, to talk about the thing.
That would be 2 years, at least, it wouldn't be next school year.
Let's start talking now.
23, well, yeah.
So soon. Okay, good.
That's, if that's committee's prerogative, we could definitely do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm like, in a timeline, it would work for 23, 24. But again, there's a significant need there as well.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of time that it took for the other thing.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. So we need to approve this. Okay, perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Mrs. Scalaro.
Oh yeah, step here, hold on 1 second. You can sit right there if you want and just use this. You can just scroll down here. Whatever you like.
Okay, so this presentation was originally scheduled for January 4th. This is just an update on our progress toward CR 24 and CR 25, which is Civil Rights 24, Civil Rights 25. I'll give you a couple slides just to remind you what we're talking about here. I've talked about this here before, so I'm just going to kind of give us an update of where we are. So, CR 24 and CR 25 are two criteria under tiered focus monitoring, which used to be known as our coordinated program review. So this is a process that we go through every 3 years. We do self-assessments on a bunch of criteria under special education and civil rights. Under the self-assessment stage, we upload a lot of evidence that's, just a bunch of criteria to make sure that we are in compliance with the regulations in a lot of different areas regarding special education and civil rights. And then we have a year of on-site monitoring, and then we get our report. So earlier in the year, I talked with you about that the two areas that we needed to demonstrate continuous improvement in were CR 24, which is a curriculum review cycle, just making sure that we have a process in place, that we are reviewing all educational materials for simplistic and demeaning generalizations, lacking intellectual merit. I won't read it, but based on race, color, sex, gender identity, religion, national origin, sexual orientation. And the second area is to do an annual institutional self-evaluation to make sure that our programs and extracurricular activities, all of our materials are equitable and include all students. So there are two, you have access to this slide presentation, but I put links to two items here. One is the tiered focus monitoring report that we received in May of 2021. And, I can just click on it quickly just to remind you what this was. And basically, we submitted evidence, and all of these criteria were rated as implemented, and we just had these two. So we had those two goals, just kind of reminding you where we are with this. And we had steps that we need to take during this school year, which will be completed. How do I get out of this now? Huh? Which one? This one? Just get me out of this. This will be the last link.
It's too big for the screen.
It's too big. So there's the report, and over here is the LEA Equity Activity Guide, which is a document put out by the Department of Ed's Office of Public School Monitoring, which gives guidance to districts about steps and resources to be able to review our progress in these areas. So there's a lot of information in that LEA Equity Guide. So as a district, we looked at this to make sure, this is really our first steps in these areas, and we created plans to allow us to be able to achieve our goals. So for the curriculum review cycle, we needed to engage in professional development across the district. We need to implement an MPSD checklist for the evaluation of bias in curriculum materials, and we need to collect some sample evidence all around like cultural proficiency and equity, and just making sure that our materials are equitable to all students. So this is all in line. I put this, I don't want to click the link because I won't be able to get out of it. But Marshfield School Committee policy states is in line with these criteria, and this print here is too small, but it's pretty much bulleting out exactly what's in these two criterion under civil rights. So for our process, just to give you an idea, in that LEA Equity Guide, there are they gave some sample like checklists to use, and because this is kind of our first step, this has always been part of our process, but in terms of looking at the specific things that are included in the LEA Equity Guide, we used a model that came out of Washington to just look at some steps in what do we need to do as we're evaluating our curriculum for bias. So basically, guidelines for identifying bias is just we just need to recognize the impact of bias in classrooms and instructional materials and in teaching strategies, and to make sure that all of our students are represented and feel represented in our materials, and to make sure that we're taking steps to make sure that differences and similarities are recognized and appreciated and respected. So bias reviews should focus on a lot of different areas, and they're listed here. Again, I'm afraid to click on this link, but you can click on it in your materials. It's really just some basic bulleted items for each area that staff across the district at each elementary school and each department at the middle and high school just chose one curriculum material and just went through it looking for evidence of bias in all the different areas. So it's really about, at this point, we're continuing to raise awareness. We're looking at this tool. They were able to use this tool and then give some feedback about it. Was it too long? Did it ask the right questions? And over time, we will make this tool our own, and it will become part of our curriculum review process. So we have already uploaded our evidence. We have, I think on that first slide, it had 3 big dates: September 19th, December 18th, and then March 15th. So we've already uploaded our evidence for the professional development, and that we have looked at the checklist, and we have the feedback from the checklist, and all of that has been uploaded and accepted by the Department of Ed. And the last upload for CR24 will be on March 15th, and those will be samples of evidence of cultural proficiency in our classrooms. And so indicator 2D is really actively, this is how it reads in our teacher rubric, that comes from our teacher rubric and our evaluation rubric, actively creates and maintains an environment in which students' diverse backgrounds, identities, strengths, and challenges are respected. And this is really all relates very much to everything that we're doing with universal design for learning and making sure that classrooms are accessible for all students. So, students complete when they take MCAS. So we have that data for multiple grades. And when we looked at that data, we focused in on the area of engagement. So they're called dimensions. So the engagement dimension of that data, because the focus is really on cultural and linguistic competence. So that's the extent to which students and adults feel value diversity, manage dynamics of difference, and avoid stereotypes. We looked at relationships and how students were feeling about relationships, and also participation. So as a district, we decided to do that because those survey results we have, and they align very closely with the examples that are included in that LEA guide that the Office of Public School Monitoring is put out. So why did we do that? As a starting place, because we could compare some district data. It's broken down by grades 5, 8, and 10. We can break things down by subgroups and really take a closer look. So in this, I just put a couple links in here just to give you kind of a sense of what looking at that data looked like. I'm not going to go through all the data, but I'm going to go into a link. Wish me luck, Joey. So this is just all of grade 5 altogether, not by schools or anything like that. And when you look at that, for the engagement, Marshfield was 60% over this, positive 5% difference from the state. Here are the kinds of questions. I get the chance to take part in school events. Students at my school get along with each other. Students respect each other in my school. And what we do is there are like 14 questions, but anything over 7 is a positive difference. So Marshfield showed a positive difference between in students' responses to these questions compared to the state. And then we kind of look at, were there anything that was a big negative difference? And in grade 5 across the district, there was no big negative difference. And then you can break it down by subgroup. So, Tony, can you get me here? Thanks. That just gives you kind of a taste of what kinds of data analysis we're doing. And finally, what we'll do in the end is dig deeper into data, see if is there anything that is jumping out at us, what do we need to look more at, and then I'll be back again after March 15th to give you, what was our final submission. So again, there's just an example in here of, I can't get to it. I'll make sure that the setting is correct for you in your materials. But it's basically just saying, as we look at the data, what things jumped out, is there anything that we can do as a district to improve in this area, and we'll put that forward in a final report. So I know it's a lot, but I have to include some background so you know what I'm talking about. So, we're on track. We will complete the analysis and by March 15th.
I think it's always good to go back to, you showed the slide that kind of gave a breakdown of all the different criteria that were looked at. And I think there's a total of somewhere in the 30s or 40s of all the different things that they looked at across the district through our self-evaluation and follow-up. And only 2 were areas that, were partially implemented. So I think that alone, and again, I remember going back when Sue Dupree was there and we were doing CPR, same thing, 9/10, if not higher, were things that were fully implemented, but there was a couple things to kind of work on. So we've been tasked, and Amy and her team have been tasked with working on a few things that just need a little bit more oomph, and getting that done and submitting it to the state, and we'll be fully compliant as we know we would, but just have to go through a few more hoops during this process, and we're
Right,
almost
yeah,
to
there are
the end.
59 criterion for special ed
59,
and 26 criterion for civil rights.
85 total, and there was only 2 that needed a little more work, so it's important to know that.
And we're passing.
Yeah.
They're accepting us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Greer, do you have a question?
Questions and comments, yeah. So back in June, I think it was the June meeting, we were talking about this plan. I had asked, because I have a concern that, I guess the word equity raises, it's my caution flag, right? Equality is different to me. Equity is you tilt the scales, right? Equality, everybody starts at the same place, right? So I'm concerned with politically biased content and personal opinions creeping into our education system. And I had asked that be put in the plan. However, looking at all the stuff you put together, and I think you did a great job, it seems like we already have that covered.
We do in our policy.
In our policy. But it doesn't, it seems like it could slip through the cracks, right? Because we talk about protected categories and things like that, as the state outlines. But just say hypothetically, a teacher or a department were to introduce controversial reading material into the school system, and as a result of having that, it may single out certain students because of their relationship to other individuals. Say, for example, a police officer, right, negatively portrayed in a book. Other students may single out that son or daughter of the police officer, right? That, to me, that comes under all of the bias that you talked about, right? And all of the, where you're, I just want to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm trying to be nice with my words, because that's one of my trigger things is equity, and it was equity all through the whole thing. But I want to make sure that we keep all of that stuff out of the system, and we're just teaching our kids. I mean, from my point of view, we have students, and I understand certain students may need extra help, but I just want to keep politics and personal opinions out of our education system. So if we can make sure that all of this stuff is enforced, and it kind of covers the full spectrum of what you've done for the presentation of the state, but we need to do other things that are more community appropriate also.
I'll take that. As far as the political end of things, we always have to be mindful of that. And there's things that crop up, whether it's election years, or whether it's certain books, or whether it's things that are going on in the news. And there's learning that can take place, but we have to be mindful of
You need to use the microphone, Mr. Granatino.
We have to be mindful of other perspectives, and that's the job of educators, whether it's the classroom teacher, whether it's the building principal, whether it's us here at Central. And I think when things, if it's happened recently, or if it's happened 10 years ago or 5 years ago, sometimes there are discussions that occur. But we do have policies in place that preclude folks from going down that path. And if they do, then we have to, as you said, Mr. Greer, address it when we see it. The whole idea behind equity, though, I understand, equity is a little different than equality, but that's what this whole focus is on, is to make sure that equitable access to all of our programs is there for students. And it's not, I guess I would just maybe counter the, tipping the scales. I mean, if you look at our special education department, it's based on the concept of equity, that everyone has different learning needs, and we might have to provide certain supports that child A doesn't need, but child B needs, and child C needs something else. So our whole district is really built on creating equitable resources and equitable strategies, so that students who have a wide array of talents can succeed as best they can, or best meet their potential, is what we've talked about in our own equity statement. So, equality and inequity definitely exist and can coexist, but this focus is on ensuring that our district and every district across the state is providing equitable access to our programs, and that's kind of why it's been so hyper focused on.
Yeah, like I said, for me, it's a caution flag, right? It doesn't mean that equity is bad necessarily. but it needs to be applied by a trained eye. It just can't be blindly applied.
No.
Just say you have an A student that's outperforming everybody, getting hundreds, and you have this next group, the highest score is a 70, and you apply a bell curve and consider the highest, that top performer an outlier, right? So you just shift everything. That's equity, right? But everybody gets a trophy, and I don't want everybody to get a trophy.
No.
I don't think it's a good lesson, but yes, equity and equality can coexist. I agree with that. I just, again, a caution flag.
Yeah. No, this is definitely not about skewing scores to make everybody on the same part. It's making sure that, again, student A, who might have a certain learning challenge, has the tools that he or she needs so that they can succeed. And student B may not need that, but they might need something else to help them even go beyond what they've done to make sure that their needs are being met as well. So
that's being
Can I jump in here just for a second? Really quick, thanks. I think that, to your point, recently, in the past few years in the news, I think you're referring to that this is a hot topic of people talking about it. I think, I don't think that you don't understand, but when I'm trying to explain this to people that do come with concerns, my first thing that I say to them is, you know what, this can be as simple as this child didn't eat breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
And they need a snack when they come to school to make sure that they're ready to learn.
I'm on board with all of that. I don't
Okay.
want to. I got to finish my thought so
Yep.
I don't sound like this. I'm a wingnut, but I don't want to sound like a total wingnut, right? But again, it has to be properly applied, and we just can't blindly apply equity, right? So feeding a child that doesn't have breakfast at home, providing certain accommodations. I mean, equality is like, we gave you a ride to school, and you're in a wheelchair and you got to go up a flight of stairs to get into the school. Well, you need a ramp there or an elevator, right? That would be the equitable part of it, right? It's the same with any kind of learning environment. You provide the tools to be successful, and we all want that. Just don't want to skip the tilt the scales because of just because. Right?
No, they're being.
There needs to be a legitimate reason.
Right, and there's a lot of work that goes behind that when identifying these supports or these programs or these resources that might need to be used to help someone better meet their needs. They are thought out by a team, and the teachers, the administrators, the parents are part of that team. So it's not just something done willy-nilly. Or else I'd be with you that that's not the way it should be done. You just don't throw things out there and say, okay, you have your supports. They're really individualized in whether it's into an IEP or to a 504, and even if they don't have those supports that might show up in an IEP, they might have other things, like as I said, that will help them expand beyond where they're already succeeding and give them a greater reach into something that they're looking for. So we want to make sure that all of our students, whatever their needs might be, are having that equitable access. And equity means something different to everybody, but that's kind of why it's in place, and that's been the foundation behind special education. And again, this isn't just a special education thing. This is a civil rights matter, but we want to make sure that all of our students, 3,866 of them, have a chance to meet their potential. And sometimes that means we have to provide them with some supports.
Yeah, it's just one of these things that can run away if we don't keep an eye on it, and that's my only concern.
But that's why we have good people like Ms. Galaro here, making sure it doesn't run wild on us.
Yeah.
No, I hear you though.
I just really want to jump in really quickly, Madam Chair, if I could, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Greer. Mrs. Galaro, first and foremost, thank you. We all know how much work goes into this. All five of us certainly appreciate it. It's certainly a massive undertaking, and you and your staff and your entire team.
I'm not alone.
Yeah,
I have all my
everybody has done an outstanding job. Mr. Greer and I obviously disagree sometimes. I do think we disagree a little bit on that buzzword there. Mr. Greer, not to refute you or anything like that, because you're totally within your right to say all of it, and I get why you're saying it. When I think of your analogy, and obviously this all goes, as you know, goes so much further than those small analogies, but when I think of your analogy of the child in a wheelchair, equality is everybody gets a ride to school. Equity at least, and Mr. Granatino hit on it, that everybody kind of has a different concept of it. Is equality is everybody gets a ride to school. Equity is we're going to make sure that the student has the means of access to fit their needs, to fit their special needs. Yeah, okay. So I don't understand why it was such a bad buzzword.
And I just want to make sure our district doesn't fall into that
Okay,
trap.
and
That's
I
my
get
only
that.
concern.
I get that, and I just kind of want to make sure that looking through these numbers, I articulate from some standpoint that, and I know you're not saying that it's happening. I'm heartened looking at some of these numbers just from the example that you gave from Daniel Webster. Or was it Daniel Webster or the grade 5 vocal survey is looking at some of the questions. Students at my school get along with each other. 88% say yes, which is 12 points higher than the state average. Students respect each other in my school. 84%, 11 points higher than the state average. And then some other questions that I thought kind of fit into that discussion directly too. The one that, and you kind of used an analogy of it, I read books in class that include people who are similar to me. For example, we look the same, speak the same, or live in similar neighborhoods. That was 56%, but you can see the discretion there kind of comes from the Hispanic students who at 33% said they felt the same. So, again, Mr. Greer, definitely not to refute any of what you said or your right to say it. I just kind of was reading through that and thought those numbers stood out to show that, to back up the claim that we are paying attention to it.
Okay, so now I can counterpunch.
Yep,
So
go right ahead.
Yes, and this will be the last one.
Yeah, so Mr. Costello, we are on the same page
Good.
as far as what our district is currently doing.
Yep.
I'm concerned about where it can go if we don't pay attention to it.
Okay,
That's my only concern.
understood.
Okay.
Look at us being on the same page.
All right.
And that's why I'm sitting down, because I would fall over. Yeah, I'm gonna go out and tell people that you agreed with me 3 times in a matter of a week.
In one calendar week. No, but thank you, Mr. Greer, for the discussion. And again, and thank you, Mrs. Scalaro, and everybody else for the presentation and all the work that goes into it and the dedication. We appreciate it.
And to one point that Mr. Greer likes to bring up a lot too, and I will echo it here, this is a requirement that we have from the state to do every 3 years, and we don't get any monetary support for the time or the resources or all the other things that come forward. I know how you feel about that, but I just wanted to highlight that.
What?
Yeah, one more thing, if I didn't say it, thank you for all of the work you did. I know I was thinking it up front, don't remember if I said it or not, but you did do a great job with this. And so now we're all compliant.
Thank you very much. Okie dokie. Moving on here. Okay, so we're tabling the cafeteria workers again. Okay. So we need to approve some minutes from January 18th.
Motion
All my
approved.
coughs and hacks in there, will be part of the minutes.
I'm reading the agenda. I was going to approve the agenda for this week. Yeah.
I do just have one addition to the minutes, Mrs. Pazerski, under public participation, where it's Eric Kelly of 121 Peterson Path commented on the China virus. I would just like included in the minutes my vehement opposition to that kind of language being used during public comment, as I said during the meeting. Just want to make sure that's in our meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes from the January 18th, 2022 as amended.
All in favor? Okay, our next meeting
Next week.
is next week.
Right, Vic? That time over at Ames Way.
Yep, at Ames Way School. And I will let you know now that we will not be having a meeting on February 15th. That is going to be postponed. Okay? So everybody knows. Motion to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Costello, Ms. Campbell, Ms. Boyd, Mr. Greer,
Yes.
Ms. Sprate.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.